So I guess my idea for next hour is to give us all a holistic picture, which is also will give you a bigger idea of the yoga as a yoga. Because what we do have now, there is a Kundalini yoga, there is a Hatha yoga, there is a Raj yoga, there is a Tantra yoga. But really, yoga is yoga, and in that yoga, we have many paths that you can follow. So if yoga has many paths, then yoga therapy, because yoga and yoga therapy, remember, it's the application of yoga for people. Maybe their main desire is not to get enlightened. Which probably, if you ask me, some people, some gurus I've been around, they're just like, do this and you get enlightened. And I would say at least 3-4 times in my life I said, I think I'd like to keep coming back and make a little bit more mess. I'm actually quite enjoying being around people and So when you're seeking for enlightenment, please do remember that one of the biggest thing you have to give up is you're not coming back.
I know that.
Isn't it? So one of the guru, up in Himalayan mountains, when we were doing some practices together, said, Jnandev, just stay there, don't come out, stay there for a couple of days and don't go back to whatever you do and you will be fine. And I said, well, I want to go back. Party is waiting for me out there. Like last night, it was amazing, isn't it? Like singing bhajans and dancing there. So you got to remember, if you're seeking for enlightenment, you're not coming back. And this is especially for Costin. So I got actually 2 teachers with me, Costin on this side, and then with if you need to also have a bit of chat afterwards or during, just ask them some questions. So if the yoga has many paths, then yoga therapy will have many paths too. Which, the way I put it, instead of calling it many paths, I would say many approaches or the many tools and many models of how do we work on ourselves. So the way I begin to see it, if you have a wheel in your bike, okay, so in the bike you got the central wheel and then the bigger wheel out there. So if you visualize that bigger wheel as the divine, as the God, the universe, Shiva, Shakti, whatever you believe in, okay? You believe in a tree as a God, we Hindus at least, we love it. You want to go and worship a river, we love it. You say, I just want to worship myself, we still love it. So it means, really, the divine is something so cosmic, your and my mind have no cognitive ability to know it. You can experience it, but knowing means we're trying to define it. We experience it every day. The minute you smile it with that inner joyfulness, Sanskrit we say Sat Chitananda. You're experiencing it. So if the divine is the bigger circle and then you and me are the little circle in the middle, each path of yoga is those little spokes connecting the two, which means any one of them. Now if you visualize yourself as a little ant, I'm sorry if I'm using 2 little words, but if you visualize yourself as a little ant and you take one path and that will lead you to the cosmic place, isn't it? So you can follow the path of Hatha yoga, Raj yoga, Ashtanga yoga, Jnana yoga, Bhakti yoga. It takes you to where you need to get to. But the point is, you are living a life that is dynamic. I know lots of time we like to say messed up, but I call it dynamic. Why dynamic? There is a time to eat, time to have relation, go out with friends, time for music, time for dancing, time to look after your body. So there is each aspect. Unless you and me, we go and renounce and live in a cave, maybe lots of things don't exist anymore. So if you are living your wholesome, your dynamic life, then at each point you need different tools. So now you are not just a little ant which is trying to get from one point to another point. You are a human being which is on the wheel of, you can call it karma, samskara, Jeev Shakti, life force, destiny, whatever you want to call it, but we are on a journey. So now the wheel is rolling. Well, if you take one spoke out, how long that wheel will survive on the bumps and stuff? If you take two out, it will start to bend, twist, and it will get messed up. So that's my starting point. So please try to remember each of the model, each of the approach of yoga. Either you look at Hatha Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Raj Yoga, Bhakti Yoga. Those are the tools that each body, each mind need at different time. Now, the second aspect we also need to remember, each one of us are a beautiful, unique, individual person. And I'm not talking just in our appearance, the color of hair and the eyes and all that. Even deep down, our psycho-neurobiological existence, your genetic, your epigenetic information, you go as far as you like, we all are a unique being. Now, the second part, you're not only a unique being because you're born unique, you are also a new unique person after every next breath. So the person who came here at World Yoga Festival a couple of days, a blissful message for you all, that person is not there anymore. And it's quite a liberating concept because your past has nothing to do with your present. And this is how the concept of Satchidananda, we look at the blissful soul, Namaste, I greet to your spirit, because the spirit has nothing to do with the drama that we all do. So you're not only individual, unique individual, you also a unique individual in every next moment. So a minute ago, you were feeling achy, you need to turn, twist, move, sometimes you need to step back and stuff. A minute later, you're feeling comfortable, like, oh, I can sit straight. And somebody says, hold your spine straight, you're fine with it. Now, your mind is worrying about, left your tent open and it's just going to rain in a minute. Now your chitvartis are there. So now would you rather meditate or would you rather do your karma yoga, go and put it back together and come back? So I'm trying to use as simple as it can be. So you are not only a unique individual, you are a unique individual as your life is moving from a point A to point B every minute. And when you begin to understand that individuality, the uniqueness, then you actually begin to see that there is a time I need Hatha Yoga, time I need to know why I'm doing it, which is Jnana Yoga, time I need to close my eyes and reflect in myself to find out what is happening in me. There is a time I need to go and learn how to eat, I need to go and learn how to sleep. So each aspect becomes beautiful, and this is where at ancient time, these yogis gave us different paths of yoga. So each path itself is complete if you live away from the dynamic drama of the life. But when we are here, if I was living in a cave, I don't have to see people, maybe I don't have to know what yamas and niyamas are, because I got nobody to conflict with other than myself. If I'm here with you all, then somebody comes and say, Jnandev, can you practice a bit compassion towards us, because the way you're teaching seems to be a bit harsh. Well, I see the beauty of it. If I was away in the mountains, nobody need to tell me that. If my body is flexible, fit to meditate, nobody need to tell me Hatha Yoga. So yoga has many paths. So similarly, then the yoga therapy also follows many paths. Now the basic path that we follow in yoga therapy is what we call Achara, Vichar, Ahara, Vihar. And why we use them as a 4 pillar? Because those are the 4 pillars of your life. So let's begin with Ahara. Well, you got to eat to live. The problem is we live to eat. And why I'm changing that? So instead of letting ourselves go crazy about whatever is there, I have spoken about somebody with a diabetes, they are addicted to sugar. Somebody suffering with the ulcers, the digestive problem, they love spices. Somebody with the back pain, they love the sofa, the couch. I can tell you, it's interesting how this concept of ama, we do opposite to what we need to do. And why this is, you can, just some simple examples is like a sugar craving. The minute that level goes down, we die for it. The minute pain goes down, and in yogic term we call it samskara, in Ayurvedic term we call it ama. So very first principle is to deal with ahara, because ahara, your food, makes your physical body. Now your ahara is not only making your physical body, it's creating a fuel energy that feeds into your mind. So if you go and talk to somebody after they have taken the magic mushrooms and try to tell them how to get enlightened, or somebody who had a couple of glasses of wine and then you tell them how to live a clean life, well, their mind cannot process it. So whatever goes into the body, the toxic food, toxic body, is only going to create toxic mind. So the ahara becomes the very first principle, what to eat and what not to eat. So in Ayurveda, we have the two really simple terms. So because food is also can never be prescriptive. Why it's not prescriptive? Because each individual have to understand, well, one type of diabetes, they need to keep their sugar level up, isn't it? Other type of diabetes, they need to totally get rid of sugar and then they are fine. They will need less and less insulin. So you name any problem, nothing is prescriptive, because each individual need to understand their constitution, which we study the gunas and dosas. So the three constitutional building blocks, so the three dosas, we have the vata, which is the wind, the energy that flows in, the dynamics that comes into our body. Pitta, which we associate it with the fire, the digestive power. And of the pitta, I would say the modern time where people follow yoga, definitely the digestive fire, the pitta of the core and the pitta of the mind is quite strong. But sometimes you also need the pitta to burn and let go. So when you talk about these energy, they're not just stuck associated with one part. Then you have the kapha, which is the coherence, the fluidity, something holds together. So if the kapha is the glue of your structure, then the pitta is the energy of it, and then the vayu is the momentum of it. Now if you got too much vayu, then you even don't know where you are. Some people start to say something, and before they finish their sentence, they say a new thing, and if you're listening them, then you will have to separate every word they said to understand what they would have said at that point. So that means they got some issue with the vata. So it's the wind. If you don't have enough of it, then it will take you an hour to get out of the bed in the morning. I'm sure some of us would have this alarm that at the layer 1, 2, 3, 4 in every 10 minutes, and it will take a 2 hour to wake up. I would rather just put the last time and just let it ring once, so at least you get another hour of good sleep. But it means there is something missing in that movement force, the energetic force that we need to move forward. Pitta is the fire that gives you the courage, the strength, the energy that need or enables us to break down whatever comes in, and then we take whatever we want to keep and we get rid of whatever we need to let go. And then the kapha is the glue that holds the structure, the framework together. Now based on those qualities and their combination, then each individual need to understand what food is appropriate. For kapha, spicy food is great. So if you are kapha, you can go and have the street food, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and in next few days you will see the change in your energy. Well, for pitta, that's the place they need to avoid. And I struggle to avoid it myself, just to be clear, because that's one of them, I'm them too. And every time I walk past, because your pitta wants more of it. So hopefully now you can begin to see each individual then need individual approach even with the food. So the ahara becomes the first pillar in that approach. Then we have the vihara, which is sort of, in a simplest form, I would say recreational things, which we say let's go for vihara means let's go for a nice walk. Let's go and listen something or watch a movie or something. And amount of people I talk, what do you do to entertain yourself? People say, I watch news after my food. And I'm like, that's definitely not entertainment. That's a direct toxication of your mind, and that's going to get into your body. So I do question now and then, what do you do to entertain, to retreat, to bring joy in your life? What do you watch? What do you read? What sort of friends you go out with? What things you do? Or in yoga therapy, I change it around and say, what is that one thing if you do, you are going to be happy? So let's reference it in Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. This is Eka Tattva Abhyasa. He said, do that one thing. Of course, he talks about different things.
Yeah.
Have you ever asked yourself, when you're feeling down, either it's physical, lethargy, pain, whatever, when you're feeling down because something mind, something psychologically or spiritual, we all have something we love to do, and when we do that, it changes everything. Maybe it's just like, let's go out and have a cup of tea. Some people say, if I dive into the water, doesn't matter what happened a minute ago, it's gone. Some people say, I go for a walk, I play with my dog or cat. I'm sure you all have that one thing. Well, that's the first step to acknowledge what vihara means. It takes you away from whatever is happening into something that gives you a positive perspective, a positive outlook, or a greater feeling in you. Now for vihara, I can choose to come here and be with you all. Now can you see, if I'm here, I choose the right place to come. All my brain is thinking about what yoga is all about. How can I explain these cosmic concepts? Of course, to talk about it, I need years and years to explain everything, but trying to create an overview. In this vihara, in this satsang space, I have given myself, and you all have given that opportunity, let's think of something greater. Well, I could have chosen to be elsewhere where people are fighting and watching news and, reading newspapers. So the one leads us towards a toxic mind, toxic body. Other leads us into a greater, a positive, a healthier, happier feeling. So appropriate food, patya apatya, the food that your body can digest, food that provides your body the energy it needs. Ayurveda talks about the 4 joy of food, okay? The first joy is when it is in your mouth. Especially people who love overly extreme spicy food, eyes are full of tears, the nose is, flowing, his skin is banana. I've seen few people. They seem to be okay with it. But anyway, that's something they need to experience. But the first joy of the food when it is in your mouth. Sometimes you put something in your mouth and you're just trying to force it down, but you don't really want it. Does it make you feel, I want the next spoon and I want to chew it, I want to enjoy it? Then the next joy is when it is in your stomach. Does it make you feel can't move anymore? Sometimes we go out, especially like to me, whenever I'm going out with friends to have a meal, and then you say, like, can you talk, Jnandev? This is where somebody was offering me an apple. It takes the energy away at that point. So if you eaten too much, then hopefully you know what I'm talking about. You feel lethargic, heavy, and you just like, what have I eaten? Then the third joy is the energy you get from it. You feel vital, you feel you want to wake up, you want to do things. or you feel lethargic and wind from here and wind from there, and I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. And then the last joy is, does it make your spirit feel good about it? Do you feel, I'm glad I had this meal? Now, Ayurveda doesn't say it, but I also add the fifth point, that's me being a bit cheeky. The joy, the comfort when you go to toilet next day. You know, like in UK, honestly, I hate if you have ever gone to the Indian takeaway meals. Well, when I came here, I used to see like Indian meal, Indian restaurant. I was just like, wow, it seems to be more Indian restaurants here than in India. I guess we don't call them Indian restaurant. But every time I go on for that meal, you feel it next day. And I don't want to describe it more than that. So if it is hurting you, if it's constipating you, or you got loose motion and stuff, that means there's something gone wrong there, isn't it? So your ahara, then your vihara, what you do. Then we have the achara and the vichara. So the achara is, you can call it like a character, like your personality, your behavior pattern, your life routine. So if I want to really know who you are as a person, then I would say, well, let's talk about your achara, which means where do you go, what sort of type of people you spend time with. You can call it a behavior pattern. But I don't like the word their way, because it seems to be every time we use the word, we look at it as something negative. Well, like here, it can be positive, it can be negative. So it's more of really the deep down, the core of our character, which enables us to choose certain type of people in our life, certain type of food. So that life philosophy, the life perspective, who you are in that sense, where do you come from, all your associations, that comes under the achara. Like what are the core life values? What are your principles and how do you support that? And then the vichara is the mindset, literally translate as thought processes. But again, to me, the thought is the end product. You know, there is a source to it, isn't it? Because what I think is it's seated somewhere or stimulated from where, what I see, what I read, what I hear, and what sort of information I feed myself to. So the vichara is the collective aspect of your thought process, your thoughtful, your mindful perspective. Now, if we begin to understand that these four pillars of life, which I hope now you all can see the picture, that looking after your physical, mental, your social environment, your energy environment, then to support those four pillars, we can begin to create a sub sort of branches underneath it, which now for the ahara, well, we need the jnana sakti, isn't it? Well, if nobody teaches me what is the healthy food to eat and what is not healthy food to eat, how would I know it? So then I need to find the source. Either I study it from the scriptures, I talk to other people who know what to do, I study from the science, and wherever I can, to see what is the right food for me to eat and what is the not appropriate food for me that I should avoid. So now we move into the Jnana Sakti. Look at the Jnana Yoga as a supportive pillar to give us the understanding of the appropriate food. Then I need to look into the gunas and dosas, which is to understand somebody's biological and the psychological personality, to have a little clarification of what food is acceptable and what is not acceptable. Then maybe I also look at the Pancha Mahabhuta constitution of somebody. So somebody is lethargic, heavy, always got lots of weight, then I need to reduce the Prithvi, the heaviness, and maybe bring a bit of Agni and a bit of Jala to give them the momentum, give them the lightness. So it means even if I begin to work on the four building blocks, your supportive pillars of your health and wellness, Can you see how many other places now I have to reference to find what I need to do? And this is where the holistic aspect of yoga therapy, when we work with people, we follow this 12 diagnostic process. That's the first principle. Like the medical science, they have their own diagnosis. You go to psychologists, they have their own diagnosis. And it's a bit of sad time and the happy time, because the yoga therapy is becoming popular. But the most people I know, we use the medical diagnosis to start the treatment, a therapeutic protocol. But the problem with the medical diagnosis, you see, it's not individual. So somebody can come to me who is overweight and says, I'm suffering with a depression. Okay, somebody can again also come to me overweight and said, I got depression. Yeah. Now what I need to find out from both of them is, did they become overweight because of the depression, overeating, you all know where I'm taking it, or did they get depressed because they were overweight? And there is lots of goes in our social media and stuff, where we are now, all this appearance and stuff. So even for me to understand their root of the issue, where it begins with, I need to understand that individual from all different aspects. So the one I already mentioned, the dosas and the gunas, which are really you have the prakriti, which is your constitutional qualitative combination that makes you who you are as an individual. Good. Ideally, like when I work with people to get your constitution, your prakriti, I really need to also talk to people who are around your life. And why I have to talk to those people too? Because sometimes I'm talking to a man and he's like, I'm very peaceful, kind guy, and I don't know why my wife always keep arguing with me. And then when I talk to the wife for one odd session, I realize that he's the one, the fire, and I'm the reactive one here. So sometimes we also have to actually explore outward. So you got the gunas and dosas. Then we have the third principle that we use is the prana vayus, the panch prana vayus, which are the energetic principles of our existence. So energetically, for the life to survive, think of the 5 major principles. Of course, I look at the modern science, the medical, they have the 7 life functions. But the yogis said, let's just make it, some reason I think the yogis always have the love for the 5. Maybe they were making life easier, like I can count on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this like, let's conclude it. So they put the panch prana vayus, and these are the 5 life functions. So the first principle of life to exist is incoming, isn't it? So I eat food, I breathe in, I receive the information. So something goes in. Now whatever goes in, whatever we take in, is food, information, cognitive stimulus. Now we digest it, we process it. Well, once we digest it, processed it, now it need to go where it should be. How many of us have the conflict between the heart and the head? It's the imbalance of the energy. And I'm going to come to the Sanskrit terms, but I'm trying to give you a bit of connection of the terminology. So something that you digest it, now it need to go where it should be. So if my brain says that I'm trying to move this hand, my brain, the information need to go all the way through the nerves into every muscle to do this to you all, isn't it? If you are hearing what I'm talking, then your brain need to digest it, but also take it, what it means to you when you bring it in your practice. So that will be the distribution. Now at end of distribution, we also have the waste product. We need to let it go. In the modern time, I know in the Western thing, we only think of the intestinal or the constipation of the digestive system. In Ayurveda, we talk about the constipation into our digestive system, but we also have the mental constipation, pranic constipation, and the spiritual constipation. And I think the spiritual constipation is the hardest one, because it creates such an immense amount of ego and perspective, and you really not easy to go and tell somebody, I loved what you're talking, but let's also hear me out. Why? Because whatever is stuck into them, they're not being able to process and let go what need to be let go. And then the fifth principle is something that need to maintain or manage it all. So the first Vayu, we have the Prana Vayu, which governs all the principles or your physiology of taking in. Take the breath in. Ingest the food. If I hear, you listen it. The second Vayu is the Saman Vayu, which is governing all the principles of the digestion processing. Then we have the Vyana Vayu, which is governing the principles of distribution. Apan Vayu, governing the principles of letting go. Then you have the Udan Vayu. It's like maintaining all of them together, connecting, like your nervous system in your body. So you got the 5 life principles. And when even you sit back and talk to yourself, where is life going wrong? You know, some people can be as bad as, okay, give you an example. So somebody just living in ashram in Portugal not long back and had this always a complaint, Jnandev, nobody ever says anything nice to me, I don't know why. Of course, he wasn't really hearing everything people say. So I kind of like consciously made an effort. I'm like, next morning, I'm going to try to say something personally to her. So she walked past and like, oh, you're looking really pretty and nice to see you happy. Well, all day she walked around whole place. Something is messed up with Jnandev. What does he want from me? And then she went to everybody to talk. I think Jnandev is hitting on me. And then somebody, going around about came back and like, what is happening, Jnandev? You put something. So then I sat down and talked to her and I was like, now do you see the point? I'm glad she took the point. I'm like, it's not actually people not giving you a compliment. You are taking it too far. Just because I say looking pretty, it means you're pretty, but it doesn't mean we need to take it to such an extreme where it becomes negative. So are we good in receiving even a compliment or a feedback? We constipated, aren't we? So can you see, so it's like when somebody talks to us about either the physical, psychological, emotional, spiritual problems, we can actually look at each one of them. Sometimes you tell something to somebody and they never get it. I would say just work on their Saman Vayu, give a bit of pumping into the abdomen, into the Manipur chakra, and hopefully they will start to process, break down, and see what is in it. So yoga has its own principle that is around the Panch Prana Vayus. So then that will have its diagnostic tools and it will have the therapeutic protocol. So hopefully now you all can see already we only touched the 3 points, dosas, gunas, and the prana vayus. Even if I don't want to go further, I can already begin to understand your individuality, and in that individuality I can see if you are a kapha person, which means then your Saman Vayu is going to be very little. I will definitely say go and join a Vinyasa class. Even though I know you're not going to like it, because a kapha person would rather to stay in bed and do the Yoga Nidra. And somebody is doing Yoga Nidra in a bed. Now a Vayu person, see their prana and apana is overactive and pulling it apart. So their feet may want to go to the cafe and eat food, Their brain may want to go and rest in yoga nidra, and then heart may say just don't do anything and listen to the music. Now what they really need is a paperweight. So if you give them a static practice, give them a couple of postures, hold them for a few breaths, like in the modern times we got yin yoga. Well, for Pitta, because they got a bit of both, if you send them to a vinyasa class, you're just going to put fire on top of the fire. So if you already got a big ego, I'm not saying it's negative or negative or positive. If you're going to go a vigorous practice, it's going to feed it in to make it stronger. If you got a strong digestion and you do a vigorous practice, then you need to eat 4 meals instead of 3. So with each individual, then you start to connect these blocks and then follow it through. Then the next 4, I already talked a little bit, as they are also the foundation. You got understanding somebody's diet. Please remember, your practice may be amazing, whatever you do. Your medicine, either it's the plant medicine or the allopathic medicine, I don't want to go in there. It's never enough to support your health, your wellness, without appropriate diet. The right and wrong, there is no right and wrong. It's appropriate diet. What is the need of your body, your cellular, your muscular mechanism to support what we call salutogenesis, the process of repairing. And I found amazing when I listen people, their stories. And it's not that we don't know it. It's sometimes somebody else need to hear it and ask them to underline it and say like, oh, let's see how we change it. You know, people with insomnia, I can tell you how many people I've seen, and they love their coffee before they go to bed. And they're like, I can't sleep. And I have to somehow find a way to motivate them to choose something else, which can be a herbal tea. So you don't say like, stop drinking having a hot drink in the night. You just find something else to replace it. So you work on the diet, then you work on the lifestyle as a collective term for all these 4. Of course, we can use the lifestyle as a term. And hopefully now you can begin to see the picture of how important it is to actually work on you from different perspective. So those will be the 4 next points that we study, and we explore that from the Ayurveda, from the yoga, yogic lifestyle, different Upanishads. Then we move into the next 3 points and 4 points, and more working on our inner self, our psychological self, our cognitive processes. So we have what we call the vichara sakti, the buddhi. So buddhi can be the kubuddhi or subuddhi. So what you know and what you do, does it take you towards health, or does it take you towards unhealthy being? You know, lots of people don't even have that mindset of even if I want to be healthy. So the kubuddhi is the people who do everything against what they should really do. So it's also got to understand somebody's mindset, and this is really the Yoga Sutras, Bhagavad Gita, all those scriptures are to work on your inner self and reorganize your mindset, your thought process, your perspective, your attitude, and to connect with the greater or with the higher self. And I hope we all try to look at least a minute into ourselves and see where my thoughts are taking me. We all are very good in looking at what other people are thinking. Or shall I say, we all believe that we are very good in thinking. What if I tell you we don't? Because our 99% thinking is actually coming from the stimulus. And this is the neuroscience will say the cognitive stimulus, which means if you see something that stimulates your cognitive faculty to create a series of thoughts, to understand, to perceive what happened. If somebody says, lovely to see you today. So that is your stimulus for your brain. Now you heard it. Now your brain has to process it to make sense of what it means. Now, before I said it to you, if somebody else said, are you looking lovely today? Can you buy me a cup of tea?
That's it.
Okay, I'm just giving a little metaphor here. So 10 minutes later, somebody else like, oh, you're looking really lovely. Now, before even that person says something, you already like, is it another one going to tell me, can you buy me a cup of tea? So can you see my point now? So the thoughts are actually not something you belong to or something belongs to you. They are the stimulated expression or processing of whatever your cognitive faculty is experiencing. Now that may be coming from what we have the pramana, your direct cognition, as in Patanjali's terminology, which is what you experiencing through your cognitive, your sensory faculties. What I see, what I hear, what I feel, what I taste. Here you have a valid reason. You can validate it. I'm thinking like this because of this. That becomes your pramana, your direct experience. Then we have the vipriya, which is misconception. Means something is there, but how you experiencing it has nothing to do with that. I will give you a little example, and please don't take it personally, okay? This is something I experienced not long back, and I managed to process it with all these values and virtues. So somebody had some traumatic issues with the color and all that, and I don't want to really go into the each word itself, but had the traumatic issues carrying with the association of the color. Now in one of the satsangs, several times I used the word, the dark energy. Please, I love people, okay, I have no anything with the color. But every time I used the word color, black, or a different one, somehow managed to pick up those only the end of the words and took out the context. And got very angry and it's like, Jnandev, I thought you should be above all of this. Well, I was stressed because I was trying to what did I do? So then, of course, when I sat down and talked to her to understand where it is coming from. So even though I did not say anything against anybody, but because somebody was stressed, picked up the words. If I'm hungry and you may just say, let's go out, I can tell you I will hungry, let's go out for food. And I'm sure we all would have heard that many times. So this is the vipriya, the misconception. There is something there, but we are proceeding it based on our own preconception or our pre-experience. As I said earlier, somebody said you're looking pretty. Now, if you had other experience with it, then you already becoming defensive or protective on that compliment, and that compliment can become negative. Or a negative thing can become positive. Every time I was around my guru, especially typically in India, we here have such a kind, loving language. I would say okay, please let's try to understand it from different perspective. And it's okay, let's try to work on this way. Well, some of the gurus, they just don't have that language, just do it or get out. And that's me still talking very politely. But if my heart was in the place where somebody is trying to help me to understand my own blockages, I always said, thank you, I see the point. And whenever I was not in a good place, how on earth you talk to me like that? I think I told one teacher once, I was I paid you for this. Wow, he turned it around, he said, I know, that's what I'm doing it. And then I cried, I'm oh, I got it. But can you see my point? Well, when I'm in a rage, even if you say something nice can turn into terrible And when I'm in a good place, you're saying something that I need to hear, even in a terrible way. Sometimes we say, you're being stupid. I'm sure we all say that to people, especially people we love. Instead of saying like, okay, darling, let's sit down, and what I want to tell you is what you're doing is totally inappropriately unacceptable, and please don't do it. This is a Western way of growing up, or helping the children to become better. In Indian parenting, are you trying to kill me by doing it? That's what my mom will say. I think there is a Indian Scottish lady, she does the great comedy about it. But so coming back to the Vipriya, if I'm misconceived, even a good thing can make me feel bad, and a bad thing, even if he said not in a good way, still I see greater thing out of it. And I'm sure we all experience that. Vikalpa. In Vikalpa, nothing is there, we're just imagining. Somebody, so like not here, but there's another festival I went, and even though on the program it clearly says Jnandev is coming to talk about, the yoga therapy and introducing some of these concepts. But some reason feel like, oh, because he saw my picture and then, sort of Googled and on Facebook and stuff, and just created this idea like, oh, Jnandev comes from India and he's going to teach us some real classical asanas and headstand and stuff. And then after 10 minutes, I was so disappointed. She walked away, and then we met afterwards. I'm like, is everything okay? And she's like, oh, I thought you were going to teach us headstand. I'm like, oh, read what it says. So it's imagining something, but that has no reality. Vikalpa. Then we have the nidra, which literally the word is sleep. But the sleep for the cognitive faculty is when we are not taking what we're supposed to take. A good example, how many times you are reading a book and after a page you realize you did not know what did you read. Why? Because you went out to buy the dosas from the place there. Or we're talking to somebody and for a few minutes we're going to do something else. So when the mind is absent from the reality that you are proceeding, and in that time what it's creating its own reality. So those thoughts are coming from the nidra, not knowing what is happening. And I can tell you we all experience that every day. And then the smriti, the recollection of the old memories. Now why I'm mentioning it, it means here the yoga darsana, the yogic lifestyle, the yogic practices, either it's your asana, your pranayam, your relaxation, your yoga nidra, your meditation practices, they all come in place to help you to start to explore your true self.
In that one.
Now in abstract form, the true self, we call it Sat Chit Ananda, the blissful self, Atman, the soul. But in our material life, our true self is who we truly are. And please remember, in our material cognitive faculty, that is the truth. So every time I say Jnandev, I'm talking about this physical being that has its own knowledge, has its own understanding, its own attitude, personality. That's who he is. But if you talk something beyond, then that's not Jnandev anymore. But for me to get to that nothingness, I have to go through me. Remember, if I cannot even do diagnosis, how can I prescribe? So for each one of us, if I cannot even develop the ability to know myself, how can I work on me? Then what we do, we walk around, you need to do this, you need to do that, because of this, otherwise I would have been enlightened already. Because of you cooking this food, I'm not healthy. Because of you made that choice to buy the TV and I'm watching this. I've actually heard somebody saying, because somebody bought a TV and I'm watching it. I'm like, no, but somebody bought the TV because they also live in that house. You still have the choice not to have it.
Right.
So this whole cognitive faculty, the 3 points when we work on the Jivan Darsana, the life philosophy, you work on your inner self and sort of take yourself apart to understand your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, your memories, and then work with each one of them and find peace. You know, one of my yantra philosophy is you not only have the ability to change your present, which we all do, I'm sure you know that, you also have the ability to change your future. So if I change myself now, I'm changing my future. So that's, I'm sure you all know that. But you know, you also have the potential to change your past.
Sure.
Because we live in a spiral universe, a spiral time where it's all connected. You know, those wind-up clocks we used to have, and each one of them were infused. So if you move one of them little to the clockwise or anti-clockwise, everything else is moving with it. And this yoga darsana part in yoga therapy is to unwind ourselves from all the bag we carry and change our perspective, reread, revisit, and rewrite our life history. And if I was to conclude that in a simple phrase, I would say, become the witness and not the victim.
Right.
Because the victim is looking for the problems which leads us to the suffering. The witness begins to look, what can I do with it? And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna said there are only the two type of people. The one is the yogic mind or the swastha mind. So these are the people, they are looking for what should I do. And then he said the bhoga mind, which is the consumer mind, they are looking for what I get. So the one is always what is the problem, the second is what is the solution. So when you begin to work on your inner self, then you changing that perspective from problem oriented into solution oriented. And to me, please, if anything else you want, anything you really want to take from this hour, every time you talk to yourself, wherever you are, ask yourself, instead of always what is the problem, start to ask yourself, what should I do? And you change. I can promise you within that you changed everything already. Because you have started to remember the bag is on your back, it's hurting you, but you holding onto the back. The minute you say, what should I do? Then you start to look, do I lower this shoulder or this shoulder, push it back? Do I lie down and relax? Do I ask somebody else to come and take the bag away? But you begin to look for the solution. And I will leave with that for now. So just to conclude few things, I'm also looking at the time. Interesting, I did not hear the bell today, which is also quite okay. So, well, what I really do, so I got the online Gurukula, which is sort of offering the basic, what I call the information technology, which is preparing with the theory. So I run the online courses in Foundation of Yoga Therapy, also the Foundation in Yogic Life. So for people also want to learn yoga for changing their own life. So do the one-to-one yoga therapy and the yoga life training, I call it, more to how to deal with yourself, yoga teacher training courses, and yoga therapy and the yoga retreat in Portugal and all of that. So if anyone feel you want to know a little bit more or want to sign up for the training and stuff, please come and see me, or you can come and talk to my team. And I also have actually somebody raising the hand. Are you coming for to help, or I got some question?
Ask.
Yeah, and there are also Richard and Louisa there. So please come and ask if you also have any questions. And I also got something really important, as this sort of events happen very little because over the lockdown and time we run online yoga therapy, and there is somebody here, if you'd like to come forward, Jenny, please. And she just submitted and completed her case studies and completed the yoga therapy training a couple of days ago, and we're like, meet with me in festival to, yeah, we got your, did you bring your certificate?
Yes.
Oh, you just bought a, easy one, but that's okay. Yeah. So I thought I will give her the certificate while we're here.
Oh,
Oops.
it's an honor.
Yeah, I know. So can we take a photo?
Please,
Check.
can you put it onto your photo?
Works.
Slide everyone.
Oh.
There.
Come here. First. I think so.
So if you live around here locally area, then you can also contact Jenny for some one-to-one sessions.
What?
Yeah. No.
Doctor.
I should. Oh, I should.
I really enjoy the course that I did with Jnandev. Can you hear me? You probably can hear me. Yes, I really enjoyed the course. It was really, really powerful for me, and I missed a lot the lesson that we were having every other Sunday online. So it was great. Thank you so much, Jnandev. Thank you.
So if you all have any questions, you can have a chat with also the team I got here. So if anyone have a question, please ask. Otherwise, we can start to move on. And we got books and leaflets and everything here. Please come and help yourself.
Thank you.